Good evening, America, and welcome to Sarah Brock's News, your trusted source for in-depth reporting on the stories that matter. I'm your host for tonight's broadcast, bringing you the latest developments in a story that continues to captivate and raise critical questions about transparency, justice, and accountability. Tonight, we dive into a major escalation in the Jeffrey Epstein case, as a federal judge has released a scathing letter from an alleged victim, accusing the Trump-era Department of Justice of mishandling sensitive files related to the disgraced financier. This development has reignited scrutiny of former President Donald Trump's ties to Epstein and the broader implications for the justice system. Stay with us as we unpack the details, explore the timeline, and examine what this means moving forward. Let's get started. The Jeffrey Epstein case has been a lightning rod for controversy, drawing attention to issues of power, privilege, and accountability in the highest echelons of society. For years, questions have lingered about the handling of Epstein's prosecution, his 2019 death in federal custody, and the release of documents that could shed light on his network of influential associates. Now, a new development has thrust the case back into the spotlight. On insert date, e.g., July 2025, U.S. District Judge Richard Berman, who oversaw Epstein's 2019 federal case in New York, published a powerful letter from an anonymous Epstein victim on the official court docket. This letter alleges serious misconduct by the Trump-era Department of Justice, accusing officials of selectively releasing and heavily redacting Epstein-related files to protect powerful figures, potentially including Trump himself. Judge Berman's decision to make this letter public, along with his apparent endorsement of its concerns, marks a significant moment in the ongoing saga. The letter not only questions the integrity of the DOJ's actions, but also raises broader concerns about the treatment of Epstein's victims and the transparency of the justice system. Tonight, we'll break down the contents of the letter, examine the timeline of the Epstein case, explore Trump's historical ties to Epstein, and analyze the potential fallout from this latest development. Let's begin by looking at the letter itself and what it reveals. The letter published by Judge Richard Berman comes from an anonymous individual who identifies as a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse. Written in a tone of frustration and urgency, the letter accuses the Trump-era Department of Justice of mishandling the release of Epstein-related files in a way that prioritizes the protection of powerful individuals over the needs of victims. According to the letter, the DOJ has selectively released documents while heavily redacting others, allegedly to shield wealthy and politically connected figures implicated in the files. The survivor writes, quote, "I come forward to you today in disdain, disgust, and fear of how the United States of America's DOJ has handled the promise to release the Epstein files." The letter goes on to claim that these redactions and selective releases are re-traumatizing victims who feel their voices are being ignored. The survivor questions why the DOJ appears to prioritize protecting influential names, stating, quote, "You protect yourself and your powerful and wealthy friends over the victims." Why? The letter also references Epstein's death in August 2019, which occurred while he was in federal custody under the oversight of the Trump-era DOJ. The survivor suggests that the circumstances surrounding Epstein's death, officially ruled a suicide, continue to fuel distrust in the justice system. Perhaps most strikingly, the letter urges Judge Berman to delay any further release of Epstein files until attorneys representing the victims can review the redactions. The survivor warns that the current approach risks further harm, stating, quote, "We would rather ask a convicted imprisoned abuser for information than listen to the victims." The letter concludes with a powerful assertion. "We are the biggest voices of the truth, and the truth always comes out in time." Judge Berman's decision to publish this letter on the court docket is highly unusual and signals that he is taking the survivors' concerns seriously. While the judge did not issue a formal ruling alongside the letter, his actions suggest that the court may be open to further scrutiny of the DOJ's handling of the Epstein case. This development raises critical questions about transparency and accountability, particularly given the high-profile nature of the individuals potentially named in the files. To fully understand the significance of this letter, let's step back and review the timeline of the Jeffrey Epstein case, which has been marked by controversy at every turn. Jeffrey Epstein, a wealthy financier and convicted sex offender, was first investigated in Florida in the mid-2000s for allegations of sexually abusing and trafficking underage girls. In 2008, Epstein struck a highly scrutinized plea deal with federal prosecutors in Florida, allowing him to plead guilty to state charges of procuring a person under 18 for prostitution and solicitation of prostitution. This deal, which spared him from federal charges, has been widely criticized for its leniency, as prosecutors now estimate Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. In July 2019, Epstein was arrested in New York on federal sex trafficking charges. His case drew renewed attention due to his connections to prominent figures, including former Presidents Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, as well as Britain's Prince Andrew. However, just 1 month later, on August 10, 2019, Epstein was found dead in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York. The official ruling of suicide sparked widespread speculation and conspiracy theories, with many questioning how such a high-profile inmate could die under federal supervision. Following Epstein's death, his associate Ghislaine Maxwell was charged in 2020 with helping him abuse teenage girls. Maxwell was convicted in 2021 and is currently serving a 20-year sentence. Meanwhile, public demand for the release of Epstein-related documents has grown, fueled by suspicions that the files could reveal the identities of other individuals involved in or aware of Epstein's crimes. The Trump administration's handling of the Epstein case has been a particular point of contention. In July 2025, the Trump-era DOJ faced backlash after releasing a memo stating that no further charges would be filed against third parties and that no additional evidence, such as a rumored client list, would be released. This decision prompted outrage among Trump supporters, who had expected greater transparency based on earlier campaign promises. In response to this backlash, President Trump directed Attorney General Pam Bondi to seek the release of grand jury testimony from Epstein's case. However, on July 23, 2025, U.S. District Judge Robin Rosenberg in Florida denied a DOJ request to unseal grand jury transcripts from investigations in 2005 and 2007, citing strict rules governing grand jury secrecy. A similar request remains pending in New York, where federal judges have more flexibility to release such materials under exceptional circumstances. It's against this backdrop that Judge Berman's decision to publish the victim's letter has added fuel to an already contentious issue. The letter's allegations of DOJ misconduct echo broader concerns about whether the justice system has prioritized protecting victims or shielding influential figures. The Epstein case has long been complicated by the financier's connections to high-profile individuals, including former President Donald Trump. Trump and Epstein were known to have socialized in the 1990s and early 2000s, with photos showing them together at events, including at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida. In a 2002 interview with New York Magazine, Trump described Epstein as a terrific guy and noted that they shared an interest in beautiful women. However, Trump later stated that he distanced himself from Epstein after a falling out, the details of which remain unclear. Recent reports have added complexity to this relationship. In July 2025, The Wall Street Journal reported that Trump's name appeared multiple times in a truckload of Epstein-related documents reviewed by the DOJ. Attorney General Pam Bondi reportedly briefed Trump on these references in May 2025, though the context of Trump's mentions in the files remains unclear. Trump has denied any wrongdoing and dismissed the report, filing a $10 billion defamation lawsuit against The Wall Street Journal over a separate claim that he sent Epstein a bawdy birthday letter in 2003. The authenticity of this letter has not been independently verified, and Trump has called it fake. Additionally, posts on X have referenced unverified claims about Trump's involvement with Epstein, including allegations from a former Trump Plaza hotel and casino CEO about underage girls at the establishment. These claims, shared by accounts such as Occupy Democrats, remain unsubstantiated and should be treated with caution until supported by credible evidence. The victim's letter published by Judge Berman does not explicitly name Trump as one of the powerful and wealthy friends allegedly protected by the DOJ. However, its reference to politically connected figures has intensified speculation about Trump's role, particularly given his administration's oversight of the DOJ during Epstein's 2019 detention and death. The letter's accusations also align with concerns raised by some lawmakers and victims' advocates, who argue that the DOJ's redactions and selective releases may be shielding influential individuals. U.S. District Judge Richard Berman, who presided over Epstein's 2019 case in New York, has played a central role in the latest developments. By publishing the victim's letter on the court docket, Berman has signaled that he is open to addressing concerns about the DOJ's handling of the Epstein files. While he has not issued a formal ruling on the letter, his decision to make it public is significant, as it amplifies the survivor's voice and invites further scrutiny of the justice system's actions. New York is typically kept secret under federal rules to protect the integrity of investigations and the privacy of individuals who are not charged. In Florida, Judge Robin Rosenberg ruled on July 23, 2025, that she lacked the authority to unseal grand jury transcripts from Epstein's 2005 and 2007 investigations, citing 11th Circuit precedent. However, in New York, the Second Circuit allows judges to release such materials in special or exceptional circumstances, such as historical interest or the passage of time. The DOJ's request to unseal grand jury testimony, filed at Trump's direction, has been met with mixed reactions. Some see it as an attempt to address public demand for transparency, while others, including the anonymous survivor, argue that the process lacks accountability and fails to prioritize victims' rights. The survivor's call for victim attorneys to review redactions underscores the tension between public interest and the privacy of those affected by Epstein's crimes. The release of the victim's letter has sparked a wave of reactions from lawmakers, advocates, and the public. On July 24, 2025, a House subcommittee voted 8-2 to subpoena the DOJ for Epstein-related files, with 3 Republicans joining Democrats in support of the action. This bipartisan effort reflects growing frustration with the lack of transparency in the case, even among some of Trump's supporters. Victims' advocates have praised Judge Berman's decision to publish the letter, viewing it as a step toward amplifying survivors' voices. However, they also caution that the selective release of documents could cause further harm if not handled carefully. An unnamed accuser quoted by the BBC described the Epstein files saga as a roller coaster and a real weight on victims, highlighting the emotional toll of the ongoing controversy. Public sentiment, as reflected on platforms like X, remains polarized. Some users have expressed outrage over the DOJ's handling of the files, with posts claiming that Trump's name was redacted alongside other prominent figures. Others have accused the Trump administration of using distractions, such as unrelated attacks on political opponents, to deflect attention from the Epstein case. These claims remain speculative and should be approached with caution, as they lack corroboration from primary sources. The broader implications of this development could be significant. If additional documents are released, whether through Judge Berman's court in New York or elsewhere, they could shed light on Epstein's network and the DOJ's actions during the Trump administration. However, any release will need to balance public interest with the privacy rights of victims and uncharged individuals, as emphasized by former federal prosecutor Chuck Rosenberg in an NBC News report. Rules aside, it is fundamentally unfair to dump subject names in the public domain without a forum for them to respond. As we wrap up tonight's report, it's clear that the Jeffrey Epstein case remains one of the most complex and polarizing stories in recent memory. The publication of an anonymous victim's letter by Judge Richard Berman has brought renewed attention to allegations of misconduct within the Trump-era Department of Justice, raising questions about transparency, accountability, and the treatment of survivors. While the letter does not provide definitive evidence of wrongdoing, its accusations resonate with broader concerns about the handling of Epstein's case and the protection of powerful figures. As the legal process unfolds, the courts will play a critical role in determining whether additional Epstein files are released and how they are handled. For now, the survivor's words serve as a powerful reminder of the human cost at the heart of this case. As the letter states, quote, "We are the biggest voices of the truth, and the truth always comes out in time." This is a story that demands continued scrutiny, and here at Sarah Brock's News, we'll keep you informed as new developments emerge. If you found this report valuable, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated on our coverage. For Sarah Brock's News, I'm your host, signing off. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.